Good evening and welcome to this evening meeting of the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment. Today's date is 5/3/21 and the time is 6 p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. Respect to all parties, we ask that those present turn off cell phones and set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet. I'd like to take a minute to review the procedures. First of all, we'll handle normal housekeeping agendas. Then for each application, we'll open the public hearing on the form. The planning zoning staff will then present the staff report, including staff recommendations. Any letters or other communications received from public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present this case and respond to the staff report. Next, we'll hear comments from the public. If you'd like to speak, either come to in support or against the application, come to the microphone. State your name, address for the record, and interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious and irrelevant comments may be ruled out by order of the chair. I ask you to remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing then be closed by a motion and vote. Therefore, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the board. The board shall then deliberate the case and ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the board. The board will formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any board member has an expert communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of deliberation of the respective item. And a person desiring to appeal the board's decision to a court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of the decision with the planning.
So we can move to roll call. Just for the roll call, I just want to confirm that everybody is here. So I'll go ahead and read your name off, and so if you just state present, we'd appreciate that. Daniel Hare.
Present.
Pam Clark.
Present.
And Bob Roulette.
Present.
And Tom.
Present.
Okay, Tom Thiessen is present. So we have 4 board members present, thereby constituting a quorum.
Okay, any public comment on matters not on the agenda?
No one from the public is present.
Okay, then we ask for approval of the minutes from January 4th of 2021.
Okay, the minutes are available in the board packets. And so at this time, a motion and second would be possibly entertained.
I move to approve the minutes as received.
I'll second that. Bob Briette.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the minutes. Discussion. Otherwise, we can go ahead and vote by roll call. Okay, we'll go ahead and take the yeas and nays. I'll read the name. Daniel Hare.
Aye.
Pam Clark.
Aye.
Bob Roulette.
Aye.
Tom Thiessen.
Aye.
Okay, looks like minutes are approved 4-0. Okay, Okay, there are these two. So we would move into the items for this evening, which would first be the wind energy proposal. Motion.
All right, well, I'll take it from here. Thank you, guys. This is, folks on the phone, this is David Gleiser, Director of Community Economic Development Department. Want to start off by saying thank you for being able to make it tonight's meeting. This is basically an informational session. Dan and I have been working on both of these draft ordinances for a number of months, and we just wanted to bring it to your attention because it's about at that level of readiness where we want to get it in front of the supervisors for their review and approval. The reason why Woodbury County is considering, or why the staff, county engineer, our department, as well as county attorney's office and conservation all support an ordinance for commercial wind farms is to essentially regulate them if one were to come to Woodbury County. Cherokee County got a pretty big one in the last couple of years. I think they got a 90 turbine wind farm that's going to generate about 200 megawatts of energy, which is a lot of energy. And with them getting closer and closer to the county line, we're just really afraid of getting caught with, without any rules or real regulations to, properly cite them and permit them. And so with that being said, the document that's on page 3 just gives you some highlights. I mean, these are kind of, irrefutable facts about wind energy in the state of Iowa. We're really a leader in the country. We, as a state, produce more wind energy than any other state in the country, than most states in the country. And it's a good industry for Iowa. There's a number of companies, Iowa companies that are involved in wind farm installation, manufacturing, maintenance, and they're also good paying jobs. The wind turbine technician is one of the fastest growing jobs in the country. Western Iowa Tech is, looking to expand and get more of a technicians program. And there's just really so much more potential for more wind generation. The wind turbines that are out there today are about 20 years old, and they're getting repowered, so to speak. That's what the utility companies like to call it. And basically they're upgrading those turbines with new technology. The technology is better, so the turbines don't have to be as big. And they're able to basically capture wind in places that they didn't think they could before. So our department has been in contact with a wind farm or a wind company a couple of years ago, and they just weren't able to acquire the land that they wanted. And so unfortunately, we did not get that project. But that said, there's a couple of different ways to skin the cat when it comes to approving commercial wind farms in the state of Iowa. It's the Iowa code can allow it under the zoning ordinance, or it can be done through Iowa home rule. And if it's done under home rule, that means that the county supervisors would approve it. It would not have any relationship with the zoning ordinance. It would be a separate standalone ordinance. And how it would work is the county staff would work with the company and retrieve all the application information. And then we would compile it into a staff report, and we would schedule a public hearing with the Board of Supervisors. And at that public hearing, we would deliver the staff report and the recommendation, and then the Board of Supervisors would vote it up or down to approve it or deny it. The other way to do it would be through the zoning ordinance. And if we do it through the zoning ordinance, there's 2 different ways we could do it. It could be just an outrighted permitted use, an outright allowed use in certain zoning districts, or it can be approved through a conditional use permit. And so, those 2 scenarios, if a company were to come here and want to put up a wind farm, if it's an allowed use, It'd just be like anybody coming to our office for a building permit. There'd be no public hearings, there'd be no public notice. The company would just come to us, and as long as they meet the criteria, we'd give them a permit. The other way is to do it as a conditional use. And as you folks know, a conditional use permit application would require the zoning commission to hold a public hearing and conduct a meeting. They would then come up with their recommendation and give that to the Board of Adjustment. And then the Board of Adjustment you would hold your public hearing, and then, you folks would vote on the application to approve it or deny it. So that's pretty much the options that we're looking at to set it up. The county engineer and the county attorney's office they're recommending towards letting the Board of Supervisors approve it. And I believe that the zoning commission felt like there should be some sort of review or approval through the zoning commission and Board of Adjustment. And so, we as county staff, Dan, the county engineer, county attorney's office, we are, basically hired to make recommendations to the supervisors. We make them. They do not always, do what we recommend. So at the end of the day, it's up to them what they decide. But we would like your feedback on this, because, it would be this would be a major deal if there was a commercial wind farm and, it could be a very popular or very unpopular decision. And I just, wanted to see how you folks feel about that decision-making criteria. So with that said, if anybody has any comments or questions about that application process and approval process, please let me know what you think.
Yeah, Dave, this is Daniel Harris.
Hey.
I guess I'm on the other side of the fence of this wind issue, being a farmer and a rural resident. I got a lot of information, that's kind of negative bias towards wind farms. I would definitely not want to see one come to Woodbury County for multiple issues, just because a lot of our topography is not right. We're the home of the Lusk Hills. There's, a lot of problems with them, such as the noise we deal with them, television reception, cell phone, emergency communication interference, extra utility traffic, taxes, property values, wildlife, multitude of issues. I'm kind of opinionated on this, but I guess if it were up to me, I would lean towards maybe the supervisors getting say on this, because they can be influenced by the public, or even the Board of Adjustment. I wouldn't mind having to say on this myself, but are you saying we have that option to actually just say on this ourselves, or would the Board of Supervisors have to okay us having that role?
Dan, you were kind of breaking up and a little muffled here and there, but I think, let me repeat it. I think what you were saying or asking is, first off, that you're really generally not supportive of the idea of commercial wind farms in Woodbury County, and for a variety of reasons. But if we are going to have an ordinance, that you were leaning more towards having the supervisors approve it.
Well, I'm a little on the fence there. Do we have the power to approve it? How do we get the power? Would the Board of Supervisors have to grant the Board of Adjustment the power to regulate that, or who has the final say there?
Yes, it's the county supervisors ultimately will hold the decision-making ability to, create a commercial wind farm ordinance or not. And assuming that they will want one or, approve one, they will also decide how that process is structured. And that could either be through them or through the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
And
so
go ahead.
the Board of Adjustment doesn't have any say essentially in this issue then?
Other than your recommendations, that's pretty much it. And that's kind of, like my point I was just making is we will inform them, what the zoning commission and the Board of Adjustment, as well as other county departments, recommend. But at the end of the day, it's going to be what they decide.
Okay, so the only role that we're going to be able to play in this issue is to just pass on what we think of the issue to the Board of Supervisors then.
Correct. Yes, we want to identify, any issues as well as any recommendations.
Okay.
And Dan, it's completely okay if, members don't support the idea of the ordinance or the concept or whatnot. You folks don't have to be in lockstep, but
Sure.
that's pretty much, the meat and potatoes of these ordinances is really who's going to approve it and what's that process look like? Because honestly, we have 99 counties and there's probably 99 different ways that people are approving it. As far as criteria. And so outside of that, really, we got to look at what are the appropriate setback distances for, houses and, other structures, roads and things like that. So what we did as staff is we, did a lot of research. We looked at wind farm ordinances from all across the state and across the country. And we also reached out to the Iowa Environmental Council, as well as to our utility partners and, try to get their feedback and pick their brain. And Mark Nara, our county engineer, he's really conservative in his approach to these wind farms. He came from a county where they did not have one and they thrashed their roads. And so he knows from experience what can happen to a county if they don't have one. And he grabbed an ordinance from Kossuth County, and they have the most restrictive ordinance in the state of Iowa for wind farms. And we use that as the template to start from. And what we ended up deciding for setback distances, you can see on page 4 of your packet. Those are the proposed setback distances that we recommend. And the group that put this together again was myself, Dan, county engineer, Mark Nara, Joshua Widman from the county attorney's office, and Dan Heisel from conservation, and Gary Brown from emergency services, and Rebecca Socknett from emergency management. Because technology is different, we decided to not get into setting a specific feet or a specific height for towers, because then we're basically telling companies which technology they can put here or not. And so the best practice recommendation was to do a percentage of the height of the tower. And these percentages here all reflect a more than adequate setback distance in terms of safety. And the setback distances for the road right-of-way, for the ditches and the tiles were left at those more conservative numbers that Kossuth County had. So those were, this ordinance is pretty comprehensive, I feel like, compared to most other wind farm ordinances in the state. And the Iowa State University ISU Extension, one of their staff gave a preliminary look at our and thought that it was very comprehensive and should be a really good model for other counties in Iowa that don't have them. So we really kind of, done all the heavy lifting for you folks, and just want to see what you think.
The setback from the city limits, that's only 600 feet, is that right? It seems not very far.
Well, we could do 600 feet, which actually is probably going to be the greater distance than one of these proposed towers. And so that's actually is what this, comparing other ones across the state, that's pretty much. Mhm. One of the questions that the zoning commission asked was about the depth of these pilings, and that we had, part of the problem that counties have is the problem that they create on the roads when they install them, but also the issue of taking them down. And so we just basically looked at what everybody else was putting, and they were putting that they had to be removed to a depth of at least 4 feet. And the zoning commission thought that maybe that might need to be a little bit deeper. So we're going to do some research to see why people are saying 4 feet. And Dan, do you remember what was the other comment that they had made?
I remember something about the lines.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have it in there that the power lines, should be installed underground, and some general other safety kind of protocols. So in our proposal, we actually required the company to come up with an emergency plan. They have to come up with a decommissioning plan. They have to provide the financial bond, and also have to do a pre and post construction survey with the county engineer, do a ride along, and sign all of the road use agreements.
David?
Yes.
This is Bob. When some of the other people in your office, in your room, make comments, we can't really hear what they're saying, so if you can repeat their questions.
Oh, yes.
My comments are, what you guys have done looks really comprehensive, and definitely it commends you guys that you're ahead of the game on this. One of my questions would be, are there any wind generators, not farms, but generators in Woodbury County really to speak of now?
Not to my knowledge, to be honest with you. I think we've had maybe one person come in, Dan, that had a little like kind of kit that he bought at Menards or Harbor Freight or something like that.
He inquired about it.
Yeah. And he, he called and asked about it, but I don't know about if we do have any confinements that are operating off of wind, or, I know there have been some that have some solar generation, but
So what this brings up is my follow-up question to that is, do we have anything on the books for a private wind tower?
we do, Bob, and if you looked, or if you look in our zoning table, the summary of land use table, in the yeah, we've got it. There's a little box in there for electrical generation wind private, and then electrical generation wind commercial. And
the wind private would stay in place, and this would be taking place for the commercial?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't, like I say, your plan's fairly in depth, and I didn't get a chance to review all of it. And you did touch base on the decommissioning, but you hear things. And one of the things that I had heard with these solar farms that they're talking about approaching farmers with is that after a finite amount of time, 5 to 7, 10 years, they turn them over to the farmer. Well, then just in case there was something like this with wind generation, a lot more massive structure, what is the repercussions, or what's the county's action if a company was to go bankrupt or to sell, to make sure that they follow your existing guidelines? So if,
Yes.
let's say company A builds a wind farm and 5 years later they go bankrupt and they sell it to company B.
Well, the transferability of the permit has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. There are provisions in there in case companies get bought out and, you know, those sort of transfer of ownership kind of structures. And then we also do require a financial security, and the county engineer and the county financial controller are responsible for providing a document or
Guarantees.
a guarantee, a financial bond instrument of 130% of the costs of all required improvements to remove them and such.
Once again, you are thorough on all this. With my comments on to who would be the governing body, it's easy for me to say because my time on the Board of Adjustments is really getting closer to the end. But the Board of Adjustments, I've seen over the years past, it gives the public an opportunity to have input and individually maybe modify a particular permit, something that we want to allow that doesn't fall into that guideline. I guess I would be an advocate of having the Board of Adjustments have some input on permitting on this, but that's just one person's thought.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Daniel Hare. I agree with that. You know, I think there should be multiple parties involved in actually regulating this. You know, maybe the Board of Adjustment ourselves, you know, along with the Board of Supervisors.
You know, that's something that we are going to ask the county attorney's office to do more research on. It was my understanding that under Iowa code, the only way that the county supervisors can get involved is through the home rule charter. And by doing so, they cannot make any reference to zoning districts or land classification. And so, you know, the zoning commission and the Board of Adjustment are created by Iowa code to address matters of zoning. And so that's going to be a legal question. It's my belief that if the supervisors do it, it will just be the county staff providing a report and a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors would have to hold a public hearing, and they would also have the ability to put conditions before approving it. So, otherwise, by law, it would have to go through the zoning commission and the Board of Adjustment. So the folks.
So is that what you're, oops, I'm sorry, this is Pam. Is that what you're asking us then? Is kind of our input on whether we think that it should be through the home rule, approved through home rule, or approved through the zoning ordinance?
Yes, Pam, that's exactly one of the questions that we'd like your feedback on.
I think what everybody said so far makes sense to me, that the supervisors should have some say in it. But I also think that the Board of Adjustments and the zoning commission should, have something to say about it too. So I don't know if there's a way that we can have an approval with all of those agencies' input, or I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's I think Pam, you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of the feelings of the zoning commission. I think folks generally feel like they're okay with the supervisors making the final call, but they definitely want to have some input in that decision-making process. And we will
and
find
that's
out.
what I would, that's what I would agree to as well.
Okay. Well, we will try to determine that with the county attorney's office and legal counsel. And we will make sure that we circle back with you folks before we get this in front of the Board of Supervisors. And we'll make sure that you are also invited to the Board of Supervisors meeting, that we present this to them. And, you know, if folks would like to attend or participate or, you know, have a comment read into the record, we can do any of those for you.
Okay.
David, one
Yeah.
thing I'd like to make a comment on is am I correct in the belief that, I thought we talked about this a number of years back, that when it falls into just the Board of Adjustments area, the Board of Adjustments decision is binding and there's no recourse other than legal action. I don't know if we want to put that much burden on just the Board of Adjustments. Is that correct?
Yes, when the Board of Adjustment makes a decision, the only recourse would be through the district court.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to make that comment and verify that. I don't know if everybody's aware of that. But when the Board of Adjustments make a decision, it's pretty much so final. There's not really much recourse other than legal.
Yes, you folks are a quasi judicial body, and so it would take a judge to undo your decision. If there are no other comments or questions for the wind ordinance, I'll hand it off to Dan and he can entertain you about floodplain.
Once again, good evening, everyone.
Got kind of quiet. Is everybody still there?
I'm here, but I don't hear anything else.
Yeah, I'm here as well, but I'm not hearing any part of the meeting.
I think we lost the audio at the courthouse.
We must have said something they didn't like.
Maybe.
Yeah, I got it was awful echoey in that place too.
Okay, can you?
I know. I
Okay, this is Dan.
Back.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me? Okay, I think you probably lost us at the very beginning, so I'm going to go ahead and start over. As you know, our zoning ordinance has a floodplain section built in to this around section 5.03. And our floodplain ordinance is kind of a product of the classical federalism study where you have the federal government and the state government basically tell the local governments how to operate. And because we are a member of the National Flood Insurance Program as part of FEMA, the language that is within our ordinance has to be approved by the DNR as well as FEMA to meet the respective federal guidelines. And we may have shared with you in the past that the floodplain is going to be updated over the next 18 months or so using 2-foot LiDAR technology. And as part of updating the flood maps, it is the expectation of FEMA and the DNR that the local government update the ordinance to match the criteria as required by FEMA. And so what we have presented to you in the packets is the new updated Iowa model floodplain ordinance that was given to us by the DNR. And unlike the discussion that we have just had with the wind ordinance, this language, for the most part, is language that would be required to be adopted by the county, with the exception of some real basic items within the floodplain. For example, The level that you would elevate above the floodplain is typically the 1 foot above the base flood elevation level. But kind of moving away a little bit from the technicalities, in your packet, kind of beginning on page 19, there's kind of a PowerPoint slideshow in there that gives you, through the first few slides, were some questions that the zoning commission originally had that we checked on with the DNR to confirm some of the questions that would arise from this respective floodplain. Kind of beginning on page 22 and forward, you see kind of a slide where it says proposed definition and kind of showing you a comparison of the new ordinance versus the old ordinance. But kind of long story short, the language that is presented to us, again, is pretty much required, and this kind of process would go through the zoning commission for review, and the board of supervisors ultimately for adoption is how this respective language would go. However, prior to adoption, any action that the zoning commission would take, it goes back to the DNR. In other words, the DNR will dictate to us on what type of floodplain ordinance that we have and must be adopted by the Board of Supervisors. And again, this is to ensure that we would meet compliance with the FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program. With that said, I know you're kind of being presented a lot of information here tonight from both ends. I would ask if you have any comments or questions concerning this updated language. It's basically an update to what we have now.
I read through it all, and I didn't see anything that I didn't think was just fine. I mean, everything looks good to me, and I don't have any problems with any of it.
I think really the main difference was they're just matching up some definitions, and so it's just really making sure that we're all reading from the same sheet of music and it's all apples to apples in terms of what languages and definitions we're using.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's probably a lot of housekeeping, more or less, isn't it? Just to bring it up to what would be the acceptable version.
Yep.
Yeah, Pam, that is correct. And I will say that the DNR National Flood Insurance Program coordinator for Iowa, his name's Bill Cappuccio. He's worked with us very closely on this document, and one of his top comments is that this is just simply going through the language, tightening it up, making sure that it meets the federal requirements. And so they're basically like a custodian or kind of the enforcer to ensure that the local levels adopt language that is federally compliant. And that's really what we're at.
Right. Yep. I mean, it looks good to me.
Well, I will just give Dan some credit because it's been a lot of typing and a lot of formatting and a lot of stuff that would make me go cross-eyed. So I appreciate all the work that he's done on this.
And I'll say that I appreciate the state coordinator, Bill Cappuccio, quite a bit, because he's been an excellent resource really to all of us in a lot of capacities on clarifying everything. And so I just want to make that statement for the record for Bill as well. So thank you.
That's what all we had for you folks.
Well, Tom, if we're complete on that, we can kind of move to the other agenda items, which we have no public here, so.
Okay. We need to discuss more.
I think the only other thing that I would bring up before we let you folks go is that, since COVID has happened, the electronic meeting format has been very helpful. And I think we can continue, I would like to continue to offer that telephone option, ongoing.
Yeah.
And still, if folks want to come into the courthouse and meet in person, we can. We can mask up, we can do whatever folks would like. So I'll just throw that option out there that, we're gonna offer the in-person meeting and then still offer the ability to phone in. And other than that, that's about it.
Well, I, for one, really appreciate the fact that we can phone in, that we can listen in this way. So it's really nice that we have that option now. It is hard to hear, I would say, it's a little garbly, but when people are at the microphone, I can hear fine then, so.
Okay. Well, that's good point. I think we better make a little investment in some technology and equipment and make sure that we're mic'd up well. So that's good feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. We can do that.
Well, I agree with all the positive things that you guys have all been saying, and I think it went well. I liked meeting in person, but tonight I wouldn't have been able to make it with my time schedule, so it's nice to have this option. But with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We have a second?
I'll second. This is Daniel.
Okay. Looks like we have a motion by Bob and a second by Daniel to close. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
It looks like there's consensus that the meeting can be closed.
Folks are adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you guys for everything.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Good job.
Bye.